very trapped by nihilism and eternalism. Then go back to the, let's look at the initial verse. The view of nihilism is insisting that the end of life is eternal and there is no rebirth. We'll come to that later. Thus, there is no fear of cause and effect. So obviously, this applies when obviously when one thinks that life is just as it is and it doesn't move on, and that's where there's no fear of this cause and effect. And then the other view is eternalism, insisting that one can abide permanently in this and future lives, and there will never be an end. And in either case, that is why in both cases, as no one doesn't respect the law of cause and effect. So these are heretical and extreme views. So if I think those who are very familiar with the 10 wholesome deeds, the last one, the last of the the 10 wholesome deeds, which is undertaken by most practitioners, is the one that respecting the universal law of cause and effect, and that is fundamental in Buddhism practice, because if one does not respect the law of cause and effect, there is no point in the cultivation. So in Master's explanation, talking about nihilism, so in this nihilism, obviously they do not believe in the law of karma. So as long as whatever makes one happy, and they will enjoy that, and there's no such thing as a future life. This is all about the one life theory. And so in one life theory, born in this life, the thing is that we do as well as possible in this life to get as much as we can in this life. So therefore, there's no consequences of what one does in this particular life. I could show you one example that I had. I was actually, that time I was previously a Secretary General of Transparency International in Malaysia. I was sharing a platform on this about basically about moral virtues and anti-corruption. Now, if you remember some years back, more than probably 10 years ago, there were a lot of cases where copper wires were being stolen, and even manhole covers were being stolen, and they would sell it to recycling centers for money, and that's how they would live. So what happened was that this, I was sharing the platform with actually a telecom, and obviously, can you imagine, they cut off the copper wires. And what happened was that they caught this family. They were a very decent looking family carrying a young child. And when they were caught, they were asked, and why did you do that? And they knew that they looked religious, and so they asked, so it doesn't, that the teaching that you have learned would not, and this is not the right thing to do. Now, the response came back was, the company has no religion. Therefore, what I do, or what we do, there's no consequences. And so therefore, basically, they've then been taught that whatever they do, even if they take from somebody, so long as you're not of the same religion, it's not wrong. And this is the issue. It's a problem which is happening in the society today. And so therefore, this one life theory doesn't affect them into the future life. So that is, it's okay to take. So it's not stealing, it's take. So on the other hand is internalism, that I do not properly engage in spiritual practice in this life. It does not matter, because I was born a human again in the next life. So I don't cultivate this time. Can still come back. I will still cultivate. So therefore, I enjoy as much as possible in this life. But they don't understand that this is a type of belief, and this is and I think in the Lotus Sutra I mentioned about this, because in India, that's what the certain belief that they have in there, and it's still there. So the soul that they believe does not evolve. Okay, so that soul, when it's born, I will continue to be human being. Not only that, if they're born in a certain caste, the higher caste, so whatever do, the next life, the temporary reborn, will remain in that higher caste. So this is the internalism that they're referring to, especially during the time of the Buddha, and belief is still in there. So nihilism and internalism are the extremes of deviated views. So we are, for us, we're good practitioners. That's why it's very important for us to understand the cause and effect, and how does the consciousness evolve. And unless we understand that properly, we won't be able to practice properly and understand the principles. So, and so Master went on about sowing discord and about 6 not very diligent bhikkhus, sowing seed of discord, a group of diligent bhikkhus. So even for one who is very diligent in the practice, despite that diligence, there were still delusions and doubt. Because if one has this, without this delusion and doubt, so whatever bad is said about the person, that would be affected, isn't it? So this is the part about the practicing in the stillness of the mind. So whatever one says bad about the person, we shouldn't be roused by our desire emotion. And that relates back to number of times that I've shared with you all, that especially for us as householders, you see, we are still living our worldly ways. We still got work to do, family, so on, social engagement, so on and so forth. So we bound to all the time have to be facing a lot of these, I call them these worldly winds that are blowing at us. And this is the one, there are two things to this. One is the desire, the fire of desire in our heart, and the wave of emotion in the mind that can be easily stirred up. And therefore, if one to remain in stillness, even if someone were to say that, we should not be riled up by that. So a lot of people have this ill intention. Obviously, they say this, and you find this, you probably find this at work all the time, because people want to climb up the corporate ladder and so on and so forth. So Master said, then look at the society today. The same is happening right now. So when people lack understanding of blindly act to what they hear. So these are the slanderous speech that being spoken of. But so therefore, the two things to this. One is that obviously we undertake not to engage in slanderous speech, and this is in under the 10 wholesome deeds that we undertake. And so we do not cause any divisive speech to people. The divisive speech can also even happen amongst the group of practitioners. So we got to be very mindful about that. And this all starts with the mind, which is the huge intention. So when you respond as a illful thought, and then when the speech happens, and we can see people cruelly harming and killing. And they're very similar to Visakha demons. Visakha demons, literally, they drink the blood and eating the flesh of human beings, especially corpse. So in metaphorically, basically they suck the vitality out of us. So, and this is the mindset that one get engaged into, that they will attract, that energy will attract such beings. So some people cause others to find harm one another. So therefore, for us, what is important is that we do not have expectation from whatever good that sometimes, however diligent we may be in practice, we will bound to have criticisms, and they will always happen. And I shared it with Sister Suchin privately, and I told her when she wanted to post the the recording, and that was the reason why I was very reluctant to do that. And but what is same reason? So the lessons learned. Some take advantage of ignorance of inside people to fight each other. This is about, as I mentioned earlier, about the suspicion and slander that this will happen because it's the mind of beings, and because we are enlightened beings. So sometimes we unknowingly we say that there is a situation where someone have said it or impliedly so being said it, and that reaches the ears of others. And when it comes back, you say, I never said that. And turn around and say, did you, somebody else, say that? So instead of having said that under the seat of discord to somebody else, it bounces back and confronted upon, and person say, I didn't say that. Maybe so and so say that. So it push the seat to somebody else. So instead of one discord, the person so two discords. So therefore, we got to be very, very mindful of the words that we say. So we are walking the path together, but develop deviant perspective, we will be unable to give rise to flawless samadhi and wisdom. And this was a point that I mentioned earlier, the basic wisdom, but the stillness. So the stillness is not there. And the issue about self and the deviant perspective, this is where the 5 acute afflictions are. So a spiritual practice center needs to be that is should be a place of inner peace, and inner peace should be within you. And this inner peace can only come across when your character has been changed. But the character can only be changed when the consciousness has grown from worldly consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So unless that is grown, the character cannot change, and the inner afflictions will always be there. So society as a whole has an even greater need for citizens' minds to be settled and for to be harmonious. So let's just start within the spiritual family, and we grow within some spiritual family, our spiritual family, our own families, we got our own community, and then eventually we grow to a bigger and bigger field. So that's all I have. Sorry, contemplation, right? Talking about this. A bit long today. It is most difficult to control one's speech, especially when emotion fires or when ego arises. And as for us, as I mentioned earlier, we are householders. So you see, practitioners, when you're in a monastic practitioner, they have precepts to keep. So although not all the time, I'm sure you already also can counter and there are sometimes discords even within the Sangha. But the point is, for us, not when we are not in the monastic, they are more so. So the winds are a lot stronger. So bad speech leads to unwholesome actions that are hurting. So when you got a bad speech, obviously that will start with a illful thoughts, a speech, and then the action, and that become very hurting. But important to note that sometimes a bad thought may not easily be found another. Now this is especially so when if you are practicing with the 4 right efforts. If you remember the 4 right efforts, right? So if an unwholesome thought arises and you know that there's self-awareness, and this is where when your consciousness has grown and you know there's a bad thought that arises, you abandon it quickly so it doesn't hurt another, that can stop that. But if it doesn't, then a hurting action inflicted by one is physically felt by another because an action is meant to hurt. So that, but what is more is that an unwholesome speech that is unmindfully unleashed can easily pierce the heart of another, and the pain lingers on in the mind. So our speech is mightier than the sword, and so you've got to be very mindful of that. So therefore, watch your speech and always speak with the good voice. So on relationship, when you have sincerity in your heart, your speech is always sincere. And this is about intention. So words spoken in absence of sincerity are hollow. And I'm sure you all have come across this in the course of your work. And so therefore, that intention that comes from us is all within ourselves. And that's why we have to always, myself always remind us to adopt the Dharma in our heart. So know that speech is a communication of emotion from one to the other. So therefore, cultivate the path with positive emotions. So with the start of the new year, may you all be blessed. Thank you.
Gan En so much, Chin, for your really awesome sharing here.